In life, many times a person tries to live the right way, to be honest, to do their work properly, to stay loyal to the principles they've built for themselves. But the truth is, sometimes everything changes, not because of a big event, but because of a small thought. A thought that, if we had controlled it for just a few more seconds, life could have taken a completely different path. Have you ever thought about how one simple decision can change your future forever? The story you're about to hear is about that exact moment. The moment when, if we're not careful with our minds, even someone who has always done the right thing can make a choice they never imagined they would. Years ago, a young man lived on the outskirts of a city, not in the crowded center, not deep in the countryside, somewhere in between. Every day, around noon, he would leave his home and walk along the quiet roads near the city, looking for work. His life was simple and repetitive. He worked a few hours, earned a small wage, and returned home exhausted. Still, he always told himself, "At least I'm living the right way." One day, right in the middle of the afternoon, after hours of searching with no success, he was walking back along that same quiet, semi-urban road when a sound caught his attention. An elderly man was standing by the roadside. Several large boxes were placed beside him, and it was clear they were too heavy for him to carry alone. The old man said, "Excuse me, could someone help me?" The young man paused for a moment, then stepped forward and said, "I can help." The old man explained that he needed to carry his belongings to a point farther along the same road. He said he could carry part of the load himself, but one of the boxes was beyond his strength. In return, he offered a payment that caught the young man's attention. The young man agreed. When he lifted the box, he was surprised by its weight. It was heavier than he expected. The old man said, "That's natural. Important things are usually heavy." They started walking along the road under the mild midday heat. Along the way, the young man noticed the old man sometimes looked at him carefully, not with obvious suspicion, but with a quiet kind of doubt. The young man thought to himself, "Maybe he's worried I won't do the job properly." But immediately he reassured himself, "I'm not that kind of person. I've always chosen the right path." A little farther on, where the road began to slope upward, the old man stopped. He was out of breath. He said, "If possible, carry one of the other boxes as well. I'll come slowly behind you." The young man agreed. But just before picking up the second box, the old man said quietly, "Just one thing. Promise me you won't change your route." That sentence bothered the young man. In a firm tone he replied, "If I'm helping, it's not because of the money. I don't betray people's trust." He picked up the second box and walked ahead. Up to this point, everything had followed his principles. But the farther he went, and the greater the distance became, a quiet thought entered his mind. Not suddenly, not loudly. A simple thought. What if I just go a little farther? What if just this once no one finds out? Then a second thought came. This opportunity may never come again. And then a third. I've always been honest. What difference does one time make? He stopped. In the middle of that quiet road, under the direct midday sun, for the first time, he wasn't thinking about the path, but about a future that could be built with a different decision. He walked faster, then faster. Then he started running. When he reached a safe place, he opened the boxes. His heart was pounding. But what he saw was not what his mind had imagined. no real value, no promise he had dreamed of. Only signs of a test. Among the belongings there was a note, a simple piece of paper with a few short lines. It read, "I have spent years looking for someone who remains himself even when no one is watching. You went forward until the moment most people stop." The young man sat down right there. Not because of what he failed to gain, but because of what he could have been and wasn't. He was not a bad person. His life was full of good choices. But one uncontrolled thought changed everything. This story reminds us that our most dangerous enemy is not outside us, but formed within our own minds. Every path begins with a thought. A thought becomes a decision. A decision becomes an action. And action builds the future. Most people fail at exactly this point, not because of circumstances, but because of a single moment of mental negligence. And perhaps the most important question is this: if that moment hasn't arrived yet, is the story really over?